Hello and welcome to Lunchtime Politics, reaching you live from our global headquarters in the nation's commercial nerve center, Lagos. I'm Jeffrey Uzanga. Here's what's coming up on the program right now. As the internal conflict within the Benue State chapter of the All Progressives Congress continues, the state party leadership asked Governor Hycinth Alia to account for security votes. President Bola Tinubu tells Qatari businessmen to report any bribe-seeking state official as he woos investors to consider Nigeria as a destination of choice on the continent. Come clean on whether or not you are still paying a subsidy. Senior advocate of Nigeria, Mr. Femi Falana, tells the federal government following reports that subsidy is still being paid. The North Central region is where we begin the tracking of the polity from, as internal wrangling within the ranks of the Benue State chapter of the All Progressives Congress continues, where the state executive are asking the governor, Hycinth Alia, to transparently utilize his security vote to protect lives and property. They claim that instead of the governor making political capital from herdsmen attacks as a front to stifle political activities on the platform he rode to power, he should see the security of citizens as a priority. The state chairman of the party, Mr. Austin Agada, and the woman leader of the party made a call at an expanded stakeholders meeting held at the Makurdi residence of the secretary to the government of the Federation, Senator George Akume, where they made those calls on the governor. And we can tell you that President Bola Tinubu has left Doha and is heading back to Nigeria. But before he left Doha, the president had a meeting. He spoke to a Qatari businessman that his administration is taking a stand against any entrenched interests that may undermine investors' confidence in the Nigerian economy. During the Nigeria-Qatar Business and Investment Forum, President Bola Tinubu says the systems are being reformed and upgraded as Nigeria is ready for profitable and legitimate enterprise. Earlier, the president and his host, the Emir of the State of Qatar, Sheikh Tamim bin Hamad Al Thani, witnessed the signing of 7 agreements between both nations to further strengthen cooperation in the areas of education, enterprise development, investment promotion, youth empowerment, mining, tourism, and sports.
Forget whatever you had in the past that is negative. Whatever is the obstacle or problem that some of you might have encountered in the past should be something of the past and no obstacle to the future. Don't overbribe. And if it's taken from you, revert to us. Don't give. Don't let it be a problem from investing. Nigeria is serious about the revolution and evolution in business promotion that we have. We are going to remove all obstacles. We have done so much within 9 months. And I'm assuring you, it's easy. Free in, free out. Bring your investment. Whenever you are ready to go, your money is free to go out. I give you that assurance.
President of Nigeria, Bola Tinubu, just before he started heading back to Nigeria from Doha, whilst he had a meeting with businessmen in Qatar. And back here to the Oronsaya report, where the federal government recently announced its intention to implement that report as a means of cutting down the cost of governance. This is coming as Nigerians battle with the rising cost of living. Many are calling on the government to address the economic challenges confronting the country. In this report, our State House correspondent, Lanre Lasisi, looks at the steps taken and what more needs to be done.
Over the past few weeks, protests have broken out in different parts of the country. triggered by rising cost of living. It culminated in a protest by the Nigerian Labour Congress a few days ago.
There's nobody that doesn't know that a bag of rice is about 70,000 now or more. You can't buy Indomie. You can't buy anything. So you say bread is out of reach. With 30,000 naira minimum wage, if you eat a loaf of bread every day, you'll be spending almost 40,000. If you and your family will be on a loaf of. So and somebody is saying we should not say this.
According to economists, the economy is reacting to policies of the administration of President Bola Tinubu, such as the elimination of fuel subsidy and the unification of the currency rate.
Every policy response to a problem has unintended consequences. And I'm sure the government is doing its best to arrest the situation, but the people will only feel the impact of those policy responses if they impact on their pockets, if they can see that the cost of living has become no worse than it was. They were praying for things to get better, not for it to get worse.
Our government is very concerned about what Nigerians are going through, and therefore government is taking some action to ensure that Nigerians have some relief.
Many people have called on the government to show empathy by cutting down on its spending.
What the people want are, let us see the supply of the goods. Let's stop making fake, false promises. 2, let us begin to see that government expenditure and lavish lifestyle of government officials is toned down so that there's equal sacrifice amongst both policymakers, regulators, market players, and everybody.
The federal government has taken some steps, announcing a reduction for travel delegations and merging some government agencies.
On international trips, the president has directed that no more than 20 individuals be allowed to travel with him. That number will be cut down to 5 in the case of the First Lady. 20 for the president, 5 for the First Lady.
Our administration has taken a very bold step towards implementation on aspects of the Orosanya panel report, which speaks to mergers, subsuming, scrapping and relocation of parastatals, agencies and commissions of federal government. This is in line with the need to reduce cost of governance and ensure that we have streamlined efficiency across the governance value chain.
These are considered small steps in the right direction. However, there is more to be done.
Yes, it's okay, but it's not deep at all. Because for us, I think the first thing that must be done, like as we have said, is you must look for ways to patronize made in Nigeria goods. You must look for ways to patronize what we produce here. And as we've said severally, there are a lot of cars that have been assembled today in Nigeria. So why will our government take money outside and start importing vehicles when we could make do with what we locally assemble here?
While the economic situation in the country remains, the need for a more efficient government is ever present. It is expected that the government will take more steps that will make that a reality. Lanre Lasisi, Channels Television News.
Well, that's the reality of Nigeria at the moment, where we see hardship and cost of living quite high. And the government has continued to call for calm or patience and all of that, which is the crux of our conversation. We're being joined in the program via Zoom by a journalist and writer, Mr. Sam Omashaye. Mr. Omashaye, thank you so much for coming on the program.
Yes, thanks for having me.
I know you're a big supporter of the president, but we're seeing these numbers now from the economy. Let's start from the economy in terms of assessing the president's performance. As at the time the president came into power, we continually say about 22% inflation numbers in terms of inflation rate. Now is about 30. Food inflation is heading towards 40 at 35 at the moment. Interest rate was about 18. Now it's gone all the way to 22.75. So all the numbers in the economy are almost on record high under this administration in the last 10 years. Is that concerning for you, who is a supporter of the president?
Well, it should be concerning to everybody. It's concerning for me, it's concerning for the president, it's concerning for everybody who wishes the country well. There's no doubt that these things were going to happen when you remove subsidy and you collapse the exchange rates. It's like taking a person through surgery. Um, there's no way you are not going to have some kind of pains.
Well, this pain is what is becoming clearly unbearable for a lot of people. We've seen lootings and we've seen protests even by labor and other civil society organizations. But the fear that people always have, which I would like you to respond to, is that this is not the first time we're hearing promises. What is different about Bola Tinubu, the president, that anyone should believe him that things are going to get better?
Well, it's very important for us to put all of this in context. Let's go to the campaigns, because you mentioned labor and you mentioned the fact that the pains are unbearable and all of that, which are quite correct. Every of the major candidates agreed that the situation in our finances were so horrible that we needed a surgical operation. One was to remove subsidy. The other was also to collapse the exchange rate. They all agreed on that. So when they now go around and start saying that, oh, he didn't do it, he shouldn't have done it, and so on and so forth, they are not a little factual to themselves. Now, it is true that these things are very, very concerning in terms of their impact on people on day-to-day. It affects everybody. It affects me. It affects everybody who goes to the market, who uses the naira. But don't forget that some surgical work is going on. And the media and a lot of people who are making analysis, they're not looking at where these things came from. This same government announced 23 trillion naira that was just expended away by what they call ways and means. 23 trillion naira is not small money. With interest of about 7 trillion as announced by the Senate President, makes it 30 trillion. This same government announced that there were some money of about $7 to $8 billion, in which about 2.5 of that money had no company, had no very, very veritable identity of those people who spent the money. And there was the case of airlines where the cost they said that they had were different from what was verifiable by the auditors. So you discovered that there was a mess. And if you want to move on, you are going to meet it. It's like what Soludo said on your station about the economy. He has used the best metaphor so far used on the economy inherited. He called it a dead horse standing. You know what that means? It's like a building waiting to come down. So what we had and what we have had since is actually an economy in which it's like a human being who has sores all over his body, was wearing beautiful agbada.
Mr. Mashe,
yes?
If I may button, without trying to interrupt your thoughts, sir, if I may button, but it's sounding like this is another APC government taking over from an APC government that led the country for 8 years. So who are we blaming here?
Don't forget.
Is it that everybody is now isolating himself from all of this?
Exactly. I agree with you. Don't forget that there was APC and there was APC. And there was an Emiloko moment which told you that there was one APC that didn't want another APC to come to power. We should have to be factual about it. There was a wing of the APC, which was the establishment wing of the APC, that didn't want this man to come to power because perhaps of this moment that we are in now. So we should not forget that. It is an issue of an administration taking power from administration. A child can have 2 children. We have had them in history, where you remember the case of Cleopatra and his brother Ptolemy. They were both from the same father, but one did not like the other. So it's nothing new in history. There's nothing new in history.
So Mr. Mashe, Mr. Mashe, it is safe to say that we can say that the LPC in 8 years failed, and this APC is trying to fix what the failure of the last APC did. Is that the right way to characterize the situation?
That is my opinion. We don't need to say that. You can see what is going on. What is
No,
going
I'm just
on with
asking
the
whether
policy,
that's a right characterization.
That's what I see. That's what I see. And that's what everybody is seeing. What's going on with the CBN? What is going on with the dollar? What is going on with the Orosanye report? What is going on with the with all the efforts to energize the naira, the efforts to make sure that we have a certain level of sanity in government finances? When we see all of this going on, you know that there is actually a pattern of ways without saying it.
All right, let me go to the campaign, some of the campaign promises made by the president. One of the things that people are actually worried about when it comes to the federal government is that they want the government to lead by example. I remember that the president has said he's cutting down the number of people on his entourage, but people want a little bit more than that. I'm going to read verbatim what the president said in his whole Renewed Hope Agenda campaign document, 80 pages, where it talks about fighting corruption, inefficiency, and waste in governance. We will streamline the amount that the government spends on itself. A cap will be placed on fiscal expenditure for the construction of government buildings and on salaries and related compensation packages of elected officials and senior personnel in the executive branch of the federal government. Such expenditure will have a low priority in our administration. Now, reading this, one would have expected that the President Bola Tinubu's administration wouldn't have had this big number of, large number of ministers in his cabinet. Is this not antithetical? Is number of ministers not antithetical to his promise of cutting costs on governance? 48 record.
Yes, 48 record ministers. I understand that. But this same government that is also streaming down, they are probably trying to, as I see it, trying to make sure that you stabilize, then you move forward. Eventually, I'm sure the slimming down will take place, but it has already started anyway.
All right, let's talk about some other issue that is of concern, and it has to do with, do you think that given the pain that you've admitted that the policy of government has brought to the people, the government should now start rethinking some of its policy, maybe begin to, I don't know, a fine line around their position to see how things can get better, because things are not getting better?
Well, things won't get better immediately, but if you say things are not getting better, the fact that the surgical operation is going on is evidence of hope in the horizon. I mean, they say that no more ways and means. They have cut down on a lot of the loopholes in the financial system. That is telling you things will look up. The idea that you want things to look up immediately is contrary to nature. It's contrary to anything. If you look at economies that have gone through crises like this, in contemporary times, you know what happened in Greece and Turkey. Greece had it so bad that people were running away from the country and going to Europe, to Germany, and other countries didn't want to receive Greeks. But Greece has stabilized. This thing took this turbulence in the Greek economy took place for about 3 years, and nobody. There was even a run on the banks. The banks would not even dispense money. It was so bad in that economy. But they sat down and decided to do it. What is going on in the country now is what we should have done many years ago. We just decided to just look on. I was giving you the metaphor before you interrupted me, of a man who has sores all over his body and he keeps wearing flashy agbada. After a while, the heat will be so much that you have to pull out the agbada and treat the sores. If you are going to live, and that is what is going on. You have to treat the sores. The sores are monumental, and you can't treat them in one fell swoop.
All right. All right, Mr. Mashe, when you said, I smiled when you said this should have been done a long time ago. The APC government is also to blame for that action. Jonathan, former president, took that action in 2012. It took this action in 2012, but they stood against it. We should have gone past this by now.
Don't start talking to me as though I'm an APC man. I'm not an APC man.
No, you're a supporter. You're a supporter of the president. You're a supporter of the president.
I support the president. Yes, you can say that.
All right, Mr. Mashe, quite an interesting.
For the president. I've
quite
written
an
a book
interesting...
on him, on the election. Yes.
Yes, maybe some other time when you come back, we'll talk about that. Thank you so much, Mr. Samuel Mashe, journalist, veteran journalist, I must add, and a writer, as well as a poet and novelist. Thank you for coming on the program.
Thank you.
We'll now take a quick break. When we come back, we'll bring you other stories. Join us again. Welcome back. Has the federal government resumed payment of subsidy or not? That's the clarity sought by rights activist and senior advocate of Nigeria, Mr. Femi Falana. His request to the president follows a disclosure by the chief executive officer of Pinnacle Oil and Gas Limited, Mr. Robert Dickerman, at the Nigerian International Energy Summit, claiming that the Nigerian government still pays 1 trillion naira every month for petrol subsidy. According to Mr. Falana, since the Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation, NNPCL, has not deemed it fit to deny the allegation, and there is no provision for fuel subsidy in both last year and this year's appropriation acts, the federal government should, without any further delay, confirm or deny the serious allegation or end the opacity surrounding the importation of fuel from foreign countries. Mr. Falana also alludes to former President Muhammadu Buhari administration's spending of 11 trillion naira under what he considered under recovery within a period of 8 years, despite announcing it had removed subsidy on petrol. Let's now tell you that Christian leaders in Osun State, drawn from Catholic, Anglican, Methodist, and Baptist, as well as African churches, have appealed to the federal government and state government to show sincerity in the management of the nation's resources for the good of the common man. The clerics made this appeal while addressing journalists on the present economic hardship, insecurity, and other challenges confronting Nigerians. They believe that something needs to be done urgently to reposition the fortunes of the nation.
As God's messengers, we wish to tap the conscience of our political leaders by reminding them and all their collaborators that the transformation of the subsidy on premium motor spirit, commonly called petrol, and on diesel into federal allocation to state and local governments simply implies entrusting of the property of the vulnerable and the poor to powerful trustees who are deemed to be more accessible to the poor. State government should keep in mind the strong spiritual implication of this trusteeship. The government in many states of the Federation have been reluctant to disclose the new federal allocation, as well as other relief packages deployed to the states to relieve the masses of the ongoing economic woes. It is shameful to know that even material reliefs earmarked by the federal government for the poor are dissolving into the thin air or are being rebranded with no credible information on their whereabouts and the intent for such in many states of the Federation. We call on the government to champion in Osun State a society which promotes justice and authentic human progress. The government should improve on carry everyone along in the formulation of its development plan and budgets.
In the meantime, the Edo State Governor, Godwin Obaseki, has faulted the central bank's recent increase of the monetary policy rate to 22.75%. Mr. Obaseki argued that the decision is not a solution to the current economic crisis in the country. Instead, he's advocating for an increase in local production to cater for goods and services.
I understand the monetary rationale for increasing MPR, but fundamentally and fiscally, it is not going to lead to growth in our economy. We must focus on the fundamentals, which is increasing production, making sure our citizens produce the goods and services we consume and depend less on imports. Our economic policy and monetary policy cannot be determined by exchange rates alone. So this whole issue of increasing the cash reserves in the bid to tighten liquidity is going to be detrimental to our economy. I understand it.
Well, that's it on the program, but we'll go live now to Gombe State for the live coverage of the launch of the Outsource to Nigeria initiative in that particular state. The Vice President is present there. This will be live on our DSTV platform, but on all other platforms, including our streaming platforms, our regular programming will continue. Thank you for watching.